The time for preparing is over as Hurricane Florence makes its final approach.
Clocking with 100-mile-an-hour winds, the storm, 500 miles wide, is just 50 miles off the coast of North Carolina. 13 News Now has team coverage to keep you covered. We'll check in with our people live in a few minutes. But first, in just about 10 hours, the storm will smash into Wilmington. Our chief meteorologist, Jeff Lawson, is tracking a new path.
And a new intensity, which again is good news if we can keep that trend going down. We had talked about it and it's coming to fruition. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we can get even a little bit more of the weakening. So it's still going to be a huge deal, but it's not going to be as catastrophic as it would have been if it had approached at a Cat 3 or more status. We're down to Cat 1. Again, get to that in a second. Right now, not a whole lot of rain here locally. A few bands every once in a while. Look at all these rain bands, though, from the Albemarle Sound through the Pamlico Sound. And then here is the storm spinning around. This polygon of pink, that is a tornado watch until the early morning hours. We've seen every so often a couple of isolated tornado warnings. I've posted the very latest 3-hour motion of this storm, and you can see it goes from right there to right there. It had been more northwest. Now it's almost due west. That's going to take the storm again right about here somewhere very close to Wilmington as we stop it. How far is it offshore? Well, the leading edge from Wilmington right now, the front of the eye wall itself, is 43 miles offshore. Last time I looked, it was about 30 miles in diameter. So add 15 to find the center, and you get 58 miles roughly for the center of the storm. But the front edge, now 53 miles. So they're saying officially 60 miles east-southeast of Wilmington as of 11 o'clock. I'm put it a couple of miles closer, but you get the general idea. I was estimating they're using exact data. So right now, northwest at 6. It's actually picked up a mile per hour. It was earlier at 5. Going to make that landfall here near Wilmington, slide inward. By tomorrow evening, it is still pretty close to Wilmington. Here's the state line in North Carolina. It hasn't even crossed into North Carolina yet. Winds of 75 miles per hour. It slowly drifts south and west from there over another 24-hour period. And by Saturday evening is down here near Columbia in South Carolina. And then it moves up as a tropical depression into eastern Tennessee. So eastern Tennessee, Kentucky, some of the mountains, western like Asheville in North Carolina, the mountains of Virginia, West Virginia, all going to get some heavy rain as well. Not as much, though, as right near the coastline. That's still where the bullseye will be. Concerns in Virginia. Some rainfall flooding, but we're only going to have a few inches. So really, it's areas in South Carolina and North Carolina that are going to get the heaviest, and that's well south of our viewing area. Peak water levels 5.3 to 6.3. That's barely, not even in the moderate category. It's actually an inch or two away from moderate at the low end, or the low end of major in a few locations. Some trees could go down, but 25 to 35 should not do much in the way of damage, although some of those gusts to 50 might. Southern Outer Banks, winds of 60 to 80, gusting over 90. Peak storm surge, or not surge values, but total amount of water above a low tide will cause some major flooding, and that's 6 to 9 feet. So, and the heaviest rainfall staying out of that area as well. A lot more on our effects. That's all coming up locally.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Hurricane Florence has left one section of Dare County stranded and all alone.
Transportation to and from Hatteras Village has been shut down due to unsafe conditions on Highway 12. 13 News Now reporter Robert Boyd is on that highway with a look at what's happening right now.
Well, David and Regina, what a wild, wet, windy day it has been here in the Outer Banks. As you mentioned, I'm standing right in the middle of NC 12, and it is very dark and desolate right now. It was closed down earlier in this afternoon to all traffic. On a normal September day, you'd have locals and tourists alike going back and forth, but not today. It's just too unsafe because the Atlantic Ocean came pouring up over those sand dunes across the highway, making it too dangerous for drivers. And basically, it's just been one of many obstacles residents are facing because of this hurricane. Instead of vacationing families looking to play in the sand, Highway 12 was filled with bulldozers Thursday looking to rebuild the sand walls as the ocean comes pouring in.
Once water starts puddling on the roads, I won't leave my house anymore.
Savory Radigan said, when you live on the Outer Banks, it doesn't matter what category the hurricane is, They all make her nervous.
There will be pieces of buildings torn. There will be some flooding, so it'll leave its mark. This name will be remembered.
Savory's mother was busy making sure their getaway car was protected if needed.
Progressive already is upset about $2,300 worth of repairs they just had to do to my truck. And now if I was to go to them with an engine that was submerged in water, I'm sure they would be none too happy.
Meanwhile, at the beach, waves crashed onto shore.
A lot of boats have been pulled already, but the boats that are been left there have a possibility of getting ripped away from the docks and floating away.
But not everyone was sitting around thinking the worst. At Mulligan's, they were sitting around drinking, a good old-fashioned hurricane party.
Everybody's got a different take. Some worry, some don't worry.
Yeah.
Are you worried?
Not now.
But Jim's wife, Heidi, wasn't as carefree.
My biggest concern is we have a lot of trees around the house, like there's tall pine trees falling on the house.
And when it comes to hurricane parties, there's a man they call the Beer Ranger, who gives a whole new meaning to go with the flow.
My service is very important. You can call me, you can call Paul, and we'll come right out there and we'll deliver you some beer.
And as for the conditions right now I'm getting pelted with wind and water, but that water's not rain. It's not from the sky. It's actually being blown in from the Atlantic Ocean, hitting me. That's how strong these winds are getting. It seems like the gusts are getting more and more wicked with every passing hour. And as for NC-12, which I'm standing on, no word on when that will be reopened. The authorities will just have to wait and see how bad this storm gets. Now I'm going to toss it to my colleague, Megan Purrier, who's in Sandbridge. Megan, how's it going out there?
Conditions have drastically changed out here over the past few hours alone. These wind gusts have gotten so much more powerful coming off the ocean. The waves themselves are a lot more powerful, a lot higher. We caught up with some locals today who tell us that they're staying for these elements and the storm. Hurricane Florence is getting closer to land and the elements are picking up.
No one knows where this thing is going.
Doug Wilkins owns Wilkins Bait Shop in Sandbridge and has a message for hurricane flow.
For years, we didn't board up. We just left.
But now his bait shop is taking names.
I saw folks, all of them down the East Coast, making little signs up. That would be pretty cool. It would be protective as well.
Wilkins is staying tonight, but is unsure if he will ride the whole storm out.
In this case, you don't make those assumptions. You just prepare for the worst.
Houses are closed up and walled away with sandbags. Empty streets and beaches are all that's left except a few locals riding out the storm. Mike Kelly and his wife are staying in the Mobley community right beside Back Bay.
We've got a bunch of food, we have a bunch of water, we have water in the bus, and then we have a generator in here if the power goes out, so we're pretty self-sufficient.
But Kelly isn't worried about the incoming storm on his house.
It's pretty high up in the air, and it also weighs about 30,000 pounds, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
For others who can't pack their life up and drive away, there's still options available.
So we are providing meals for the citizens. So we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at certain times.
Social Services Deputy Director Galen Thomas says the Kellam High School shelter is open 24/7, but you do need to bring some items with you.
As any medication that they may be on, any type of special diets that they may be on, they should bring personal items in terms of comforter.
As for Wilkins, he says everyone should be prepared to leave at any time.
Water, food, gas in the vehicle, and ready to move at the right time. It could turn around again, so we're ready to go.
And if you are seeking shelter, the Kellam High School shelter does hit capacity at 200 people. So go on to 13newsnow.com to see the closest and best shelter option for you. Live in Virginia Beach, I'm Megan Purrier, 13 News Now.
Social media active right now with videos and pictures of Hurricane Florence.
Alicia Ibrahimji joins us now with a look at the conversations, and you've tracked a shift in where the conversations are taking place.
That's right. So if we take a look at this heat map, definitely a different conversation than what we saw yesterday. We saw a lot of these conversations happening in Virginia, but obviously as we're seeing a lot of that rain come down in the Carolinas, you can see the redder the dot, the more conversation, the more social media, tweets, Facebook posts that we're seeing. So let's get to some of those tweets. I wanted to share this with you because in Hampton Roads, people have been complaining, we haven't seen the rain. When is it coming? We have not seen any of the rain. That's true, but we did shoot this really nice time lapse of the clouds over the Norfolk skyline. Really nice visual there. This one, I've seen this video swirling all around social media of this flag. We actually Facebook Live this ourselves on the 13 News Now page. The winds were so rough that they ripped this flag in half, actually twice over. So I've seen that video shared around. Again, if you want to take a look at that and get an idea of those winds, that is on our Facebook page. That's where it lives. This is another video we pulled from North Carolina. You can see as that water gushes in right there. Very scary if you're still in that area. But again, just another idea of what it looks like around there. We had another TV station in North Carolina. They actually had to evacuate because of those waters right there. Lastly, I do want to talk about this. A lot of airlines have canceled flights, as you can imagine, out of Norfolk International Airport. If you want to learn more details about what airlines have been canceled or have been canceling flights, we've got all that information for you on 13newsnow.com.